the second step was to scale up further and go into a MOOC. So we created a MOOC on edX for in-service teachers, teachers who are already working as teachers. Again, we had lots of challenges. How do you preserve the richness of the small groups, the interaction, the production, the sharing of experiences and ideas, while at the same time taking advantage of the amazing richness of thousands of teachers from all around the world? And how do you do that in a very restrictive technological environment of edX, which some of you are familiar with? Okay, so this was the MOOC that ran in the summer of 2015 on edX, Teaching with Technology and Inquiry. Initially, it started as a collaboration between our university and a lab high school. So you see the Jim Slada, who was the professor at the University of Toronto, and Rosemary Evans, who was the principal at the University of Toronto Schools, which is a high school affiliated. Which meant that we got very nice combination of academic and practitioner perspectives. So this is my longest slide, but just to give you a context of what we were trying to achieve and what were some of the challenges. So already from the university course, we knew that this would be very heterogeneous populations. They would all more or less be teachers, but a primary school arts teacher, a high school physics teacher, a middle school English literature teacher, these have different needs, they use different tools, they have different ways of knowing. Of course, as we all know, people coming into MOOCs have very different levels of motivation and commitment and want to get different things out of the courses. And in our particular case, we really wanted the students to foster this community of knowledge, where not only did they collaborate in order to understand something very specific, but where they felt that their own experiences and ideas were consequential to the course, and that they were contributing to something larger. And in short, we wanted the students to experience the kind of pedagogy that we wanted them to learn. We want them to learn that technology can be transformative in the way that students learn together. We can't just show them a bunch of videos. It's not effective. These were all professional teachers, so we wanted to make the learning as situated and relevant to their professional life as possible, because a common problem with professional development is that it's seen as very theoretical and very difficult to take back into the classroom. Of course, with a MOOC, it's a fully online asynchronous environment, and we're on the edX platform, which has its own limitations. Okay. So what did we actually do? So our first maybe tiny innovation was that we thought 6 weeks is a very short time to create this epistemic understanding of ourselves as community of learners, right? But we actually have this gap between the time when people sign up for a MOOC and when the MOOC actually starts. And we didn't want to waste that time. So we said, once you sign up for the MOOC, please come into the teacher's lounge and hang out with all the other teachers while you wait for the MOOC to start. And by the way, let us know something about you that can help us plan the MOOC better. One of the important things that we found out was that we had a huge population of university people working in universities and in museums and informal learning. We had not designed the course around that at all. It was really focused on primary, secondary, high school. But knowing that in advance allowed us to make some kind of space for those people. And then we also wanted students to start contributing resources. So this is the kind of crowdsourcing aspect where we say it's amazing that we have, so in total we had about 8,000 people who signed up. We had about 2,000 people that we call active, and I'll talk about what that means. But that means we have 2,000, most of these were teaching professionals. And so this is an incredible resource. We want to take advantage of that. And so we started out by asking them, who are you? Okay? And so we said, okay, we don't want to use any of your personal data, but we need to refer to you somehow. So what do you want us to call you? And that name will be public within the MOOC, but you choose that name. And then we want to know, who are you? What are you teaching? What age group? What are your feedback from all of these? So that we could tell immediately what students were signing up, what their interests were, how things were going. The way this was done technically, and I can talk more in detail if anyone's interested afterwards, but basically we use something called LTI, which is a way of plugging things into edX or very many other platforms. The problem with LTI is that it gives you almost nothing for free. It's basically an iframe or a full web page, and you get a unique ID per student. And that ID is consistent every time the same student comes, but you know nothing about that student. But because we asked the students, who are you, the first time they logged in, next time we can say, hi, Jim. We know you're Jim because you told us, and it's the same unique ID. So because of all these different components were served by the same system, we could manage this kind of student model where we knew that you're Jim, but we also know that you're teaching physics in high school. We know that you've joined this group. We know that you've seen these resources or contributed these other resources, right? So all of this is happening on our own servers, not on edX. But we were still able to integrate these pieces very tightly with the edX navigation, which you'll see. And I think that was an important point in order to avoid students being lost. Because if you have a completely different environment, you click a link and then now suddenly you're in some kind of a social platform, and then you forget where you're supposed to be. So this was all integrated with edX. So again, we know who the students are. They have tags. We can start, clustering them. And this is not after the course was done. This was before the course even started, right? So you see these graphs in papers, but oftentimes it's done when the course is over and we start understanding it. At this point, we were able to do it even before the course has started. So here you see an example of an LTI component that's integrated. You see, this is the very familiar edX navigation system. And here you have a form that is hosted on our server, that stores the data on our server. But for the student, there's nothing mystical about this. They click video, they click quiz, they click form. Okay, I'm going to fill out a resource that is useful to me. Okay, if you're a physics teacher, you have some kind of simulation, there's some kind of video, online textbook that you think is really useful. It takes you a few minutes to share that with other people. It's not a big commitment. And then we ask them, what kind of a resource is this? Is it a discipline-specific resource? Okay, it's a physics simulation. It's not so interesting to the arts teacher. But Google Docs could be used by very many different disciplines in different ways. And so by clicking there, you determine whether this resource will be shown to only the people in your group or to the whole MOOC population. So now we're starting the MOOC. We haven't even started. This is week 1. We've already found out who the people are, and we know something about their interests, and they've already started populating this knowledge base. And hopefully the act of doing that also starts them thinking that this is a MOOC where they will be participating and contributing. So we had this kind of weekly learning script because we want to give some consistency. You start by watching videos. It's a MOOC, and people like videos. Then you do a personal reflection, not shared with anyone. Then we had these special interest groups. So these were groups of 200 to 300 people that were designed to group people based on the age of students they're teaching, high school, primary school, and the subject area. And here we integrated the cohort functionality of edX with all of the functionality that we had on our own server. Then you did a self-assessment of the discussion. And then you did the inquiry activities, and that's where a lot of the really fun stuff was happening. So that last block is what I'm going to talk mostly about. But the videos were good. Because we had this collaboration with the high school, we were able to, so we had started with kind of the fireplace chat, which was recorded each week, where you could reflect on what happened in the discussions last week. Then you had a pre-recorded theoretical introduction by Jim Slada. Then you had the headmaster's perspective, who said, this is how we implement inquiry learning in physics, in math, in English, in our school. This is how we train our teachers. These are the things we think of as practitioners. Then you have the actual classroom teachers. And often this video was blended with authentic footage from their classrooms, where they were actually doing different kinds of inquiry learning tasks. Because this was a lab school, we were able to get permissions from teachers to post authentic student footage, which is not common, but which I think really, really helped the value. So already there, if you're just going there and watching the videos, I would say it's a useful resource. But of course, we want to go much further. So you remember that before the course even started, people were submitting these resources. Okay? Now we're in the first week. We did the videos, the personal reflection, a discussion in these groups, and now we're coming to the inquiry tasks. And we're telling them, hey, your colleagues have submitted all these resources. Could you take a moment to rate them and comment on them. And the comments are the most important. How would you use this in your classroom? Again, this is something that takes a few minutes of your time. It's not very demanding, and hopefully it's something interesting, because these resources have been selected to be relevant to your teaching role. They're not random. But again, with 2,000 teachers spending a few minutes on this, we now have a very useful resource. We have thousands of resources ranked, tagged, with comments about how they could be used in different contexts that students can explore using different interfaces. Okay? And so this is something that would be very difficult to do if you didn't have this custom technology, but still it's very integrated into the edX interface. So there's nothing confusing, hopefully, for the students about what they're supposed to do. So already we have covered some of this crowd. You know, what are some of the things we can do that we can do with 2,000 people that we couldn't do in the same way with 20 people? However, there's a lot of really big value to this small, tight collaboration. I mean, I come from computer-supported collaborative learning, where we spend all of our lives researching kind of the magic that happens when you have 2 people or 5 people coming together and really working deeply on something. And we want to see if we could bring that into the MOOC as well. But we knew that not everyone would be willing to commit. So we were very inspired by this DAL MOOC, Digital Analytics and Learning MOOC, that came before us. They had this concept of the blue pill or the red pill from Matrix. So you can kind of choose, you know, do you want to do the kind of plain vanilla MOOC, or do you want to dig down? And we actually made the choice to say, so here I told you there was about 8,000 people who signed up to the MOOC, okay? There was about 2,000 who ever did any of the interactive exercises. And there were 400 who said, yes, I want to do the design track. The design track, you got no credit for it. Okay, so you could do the foundation track. You had to do peer review, you had to submit resources, you had to do these kind of things, and you would get 100%, I mean, if you did well, and statement of accomplishment, everything. This was purely personal interest and hopefully professional interest, because the idea was to make this very relevant to your own work. Okay, so this was very much adapted from the university course, except in the university course, everyone has to do this because it's for credit. So the idea was we're going to design a lesson or a set of lessons around technology and inquiry in your discipline area. It should be something that you're doing that maybe is troubling to you, that students have a hard time learning. And we started this week 1. So this is not the, you learn lots for 6 weeks and then you go off and write your final exam or final project. This is something that we started in week 1 and we scaffolded it throughout the entire course. It was a red kind of thread guiding everything. Yes. And we started by bringing in information from a previous cohort. So this is lesson designs from the university students who have taken the university course previously that we made available to the MOOC students to start kind of the brainstorming. And this was part of our idea of connecting this course, bringing in resources from previous generations, and then eventually sharing some of the outcomes of the students with future generations. I'm going to skip this, but suffice to say that some of the things that you can do in a class very, very quickly when it comes to organizing people in groups and stuff like that becomes very much more difficult in an online MOOC where people log in at different times. So we had to do some design around that. But I'm going to go to, so basically we asked students to suggest topics and we managed to get them into groups. Now what? How do you have these people who've never met each other, who are not online at the same time, to work together in this very collaborative task? And so I wanted to design an interface that could support this. And so I call this the collaborative workbench. The idea was to put all the tools that the students would need on the same page, again, to avoid this kind of confusion and to support collaboration. So you have a chat here. You're automatically logged in because, again, we know who you are. We know which group you're part of. So when you go to this activity, you're logged in. It tells you the other students and whether they're online or not. And this is persistent. So it's a chat, but it's also a notice board, because you can put something here, people log on next day, and they can put something back. Then you have these tabs, and they changed a bit each week. Here you have the welcome. This was new each week. So it said, hey, welcome to week 3. This week, we're going to talk about this. We hope that you work on these parts of your design. Then we had an Etherpad embedded, and this was your scratch pad. This was private to the group, Again, we seeded this with some prompts every week, and you could always go back and look at the paths from previous weeks. So this was where you would do some of the, the kind of thinking work. And then we had a wiki that was again embedded, which was your window to the world. So this would always be exposed to the outside world, and is what people would do peer review on. Then we also added some other tools to communicate. Now, the idea was we have this strand of people who want to do videos, they want to do a little bit of crowd stuff with submitting resources, and then we have these people who want to do really in-depth collaborative work. On the one hand, can we cater to both? Can we ensure that both have a really good experience? But on the other hand, can we actually make sure that they benefit from each other? That the course is better because you have both of these strands. And so we have this interdependence where you start by feeding in lots of ideas into the design groups. You have the resources, you have the previous lessons with comments, and then you have this cycle of peer review. And the way we did peer review was we don't care if it's good or bad because it's in progress. We care how it can get better, right? So we, again, would have questions each week. Like here, for example, we say, how could student-generated content be relevant to this design? Because they've been just learning about student-generated content in this week. And then you would gather all these feedback because there were more people doing the foundation strand than the design strand. One group might get 10, 20 comments into their design every week, which hopefully, and we're planning a paper on actually looking at more uptake, to what extent those comments were consequential for editing. But hopefully it was at least motivating to see that people are reading your work. And hopefully it was also useful for the learning of those people in the foundation strand to kind of fishbowl these people who are doing the collaborative work and see how it's developing, which was our idea. So very briefly, we wanted, because this was an incredible community, and we wanted the course to kind of celebrate the ending and not just post a message saying, yeah, it's over, thank you, see you next year. So again, we designed a little interface. This is basically Google Hangout on air, embedded. So millions of people can watch it, not that we had millions. But here we have a chat so that they can talk to each other. Here we have something inspired by Google Moderator, where you can post a question and people can vote it up. So the person who's talking only needs to look at the top question. Doesn't need to follow the chat or the Twitter stream. And when you've answered that question, you can archive it and goes to the bottom and the next question pops up. And the students who were there really loved it. This was in the last week, so there was 200 people who showed up, but they were very happy about it. So this is my last slide, and it's a lot, but I will be happy to give you a digital copy of this and everything else. So the idea of this, I think the key, yes, I know. The key idea here is really to integrate these long-ranging scripts, these things that happen across the course, with the weekly themes, okay? So imagine in week 3, you're doing collaborative learning. You start out by watching some videos about collaborative learning from the academic perspective, from the practitioner perspective. You do an individual reflection on what collaborative means to you. You go into your group of physics teachers in high school and you discuss in the discussion forum, what does collaborative learning look like for you guys? Then you go and look at a lesson design in progress and you're asked, how could this better employ collaborative learning? And finally, if you're in the lesson design group, you go into your lesson design and you start adding more collaborative learning to your project. So that's basically a way of tying together all of these things. Thank you.
University. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the special interest groups that you set up and how people kind of entered into it. Sorry if I missed that at the beginning because I came a little bit late.
So the special interest groups, as I said, were groups of 200 to 300 people. We designed them based on the demographic data that we collected from students at the beginning, so their interests, their teachings, and so on. But we let them choose actually their own groups because we thought we don't want to place you, by force. And the way they worked is we used the cohort functionality on edX so that in the discussion forum you would only be discussing with the people in your own group. But then we also used it on our platform so that you could only peer review lesson designs in your own group. You would see resources mainly from your own group and so on. So it was kind of a separate community, many parallel communities.
Hi, Dana Doyle with MIT. So we have kind of a hit or miss with peer review. So I'm curious, like, how did you use the peer review tool in edX, or it just looked like you had it in the wiki? So how did you, like, how complicated was that, and how successful was the peer review? I mean, since it's so integral to the course, I figure it must have worked out. But I'm just curious what improvements you made and how you got it to work well.
So yeah, we didn't use the edX peer review tool because it makes too many assumptions about, you have to submit something to get a peer review and these kind of things, whereas we wanted lots of people to give peer review to a few people. Also, as I said, this was not assessing something, saying where there was good or bad, which I'm doubting anyway. It has to be done very, very carefully. And anyway, it wasn't what we were interested in. We wanted people to bring in new ideas. How successful, and so we built all the technology ourselves. And I can tell you more details if you're interested. How successful it is, I mean, people certainly used it. Groups did get a fair amount of peer review each week. I think that it hopefully was motivating. Whether it was useful to them, that's something we're looking at for a future paper, where we're going to do a bit more kind of detailed analysis. So, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stian. Is there someone technical for him? Okay. The next one is this lady there.
Yeah.
So if you can start preparing. Okay. So now we have Alejandro Ortega, and he's going to present a paper called From Low Scale to Collaborative, Gamified, and Massive Scale Courses, Redesigning a MOOC. I hope you enjoy it. And no technical problems, hopefully.
Hello. Thank you for coming to this presentation entitled From Low Scale to Collaborative, Gamified, and Massive Scale Courses, Redesigning a MOOC. My name is Alejandro Ortega-Arranz. I'm at the University of Valladolid, as well as my other colleagues. And also here is my colleague Luisa San Martinez, who is the expert in MOOC. So maybe if you have questions later, she can also participate in the presentation. So I divided the work in introduction and motivation of the problem, and then I will explain the core redesign experience that we perform. And finally, we can discuss about results, conclusions, and future work. Okay, well, we are in the Emoocs conference. Probably, well, I hope that most of you know what a MOOC is. But I believe that it is important to realize about the growth of MOOCs in the last 2 years. We can see that from 2015 till 2017, there have been more than 4,000 courses. And it means that, see, hola. It means that we, as our researchers, teachers, instructional designers, must pay attention to the resources, the activities, to the pedagogies, because MOOCs are here to stay, and it's a new form of teaching and learning that we should pay attention. So most of MOOCs currently follow a behaviorist pedagogical approach, what means instructors add the educational content, the educational resources, videos. Students then read the materials and perform the questionnaires to assess their learning. And then the interaction is just limited to forums, to questions in forums, and to peer reviews, that these activities do not guarantee a real and effective collaboration, because, okay, you can receive a comment from your peer review, but you can say, probably it's wrong. It's another peer, so I'm not going to pay attention to what he told me. And this pedagogical approach, we think that led to these shortcomings. Students are seen as passive receivers of the learning content. That means that can be disengaged with the course, so they only enter in the course to read the materials and to perform the assessment, and that's all. They don't have any other thing because they are engaged with the course. And that can lead to the high dropout rates that the MOOCs have. And also, as I said before, these activities, collaborative activities, do not guarantee a real collaboration and effective interaction. So we believe that active learning could help to improve these problems. Active learning, due to the benefits that active learning have shown in a lower educational context. Active learning is defined by Bonnell and Aison as the instructional activities involving students in doing things and thinking about what they are doing, like writing, discussing, being engaged in solving problems. And also, Bonnell and Aison provide different examples, and two of them are collaborative activities, and also games and simulations. And okay, now we can also include gamification in this classification because at 1991, gamification was not created. And why they are not usually included in MOOCs? Okay, as I told before, some basic approaches are already included, trying to promote the collaboration, like forums, like the peer reviews, also like badges, points. But the difficulties imposed by the MOOC theaters, the massive scale, the high dropout rates, the variable scale, the latecomers of the courses, make it complex management. Let me give you an example. Imagine, for example, that you want to create a group activity with 6 person groups, and 5 out of 6 person in the group have already dropped out the course. Then it's only one active member in the group. That is collaborative learning? No. Probably it could happen to many other groups in that activity. So the idea is how can we manage it? And the main problem is that there is a lack of existing tools supporting designers, institutional designers, to manage that problem. So the underlying research question of this work is how to design and implement MOOCs that involve active pedagogies in this sense, with collaboration and gamification, and in this work with group activities, small group activities. We started addressing the research question by redesigning an existing MOOC. So this existing MOOC was originally designed by 2 teachers and 1 undergraduate student that had no previous experience on MOOCs. The course was supposed to be a 7-week instructor-led MOOC. Sorry. And the course was supposed to be used as blended learning for an undergraduate subject, not used for formal evaluation. But the teachers also wanted that external students of the subject, not enrolled in that subject, face-to-face subject, could also join that course. The topic was translation from English to Spanish in the business field, and the teachers designed it bearing in mind the Moodle platform, because Moodle is the single official virtual platform of the University of Valladolid. So the only option that they considered was doing it in Moodle. If you want further information about the course, also in the paper, but in that reference, you can find it. So we decided to follow a co-design process to start thinking how we could implement and include active learning in that course. Co-design is defined by Penwell, Rosell, and Stetzman by a highly facilitated team-based process in which different stakeholders work together in defined roles for addressing a specific educational need. In this case, the educational specific need is the redesign process. So we form a team of the original designers of the course, several researchers, and an instructional designer that has a lot of experience in MOOC and provide us some comments, feedback, tips about how to implement them. So as a starting point, we provide to the designers a questionnaire asking them about which is the previous knowledge about collaboration, the previous knowledge about gamification, if they used previously collaborative activities in their lessons, etc. And that allows us to identify the different topics and issues that we wanted to address in this experience. We perform an anticipatory data reduction process under the aforementioned research question. And in the issue that we wanted to address in this experience, how to redesign a Moodle MOOC incorporating active learning, we identified these three topics. First, the platform constraints and features, the scale, and the active learning. So regarding the platform selection, as I told before, Moodle was the platform that where the original course was implemented. Moodle is, although Moodle is able to support relative high-scale courses, it is intended to low-scale courses, let's say. So we wanted to look for another platform, a real MOOC platform that allow to support massive scale courses and also to provide us like a marketing of the course, looking for more people out of our university. And then we perform a feature analysis of the existing MOOC platforms. Then we realized that Canvas Network fits better in what we are looking for. Canvas Network allows to implement collaborative activities, group activities, allows the integration of LTI, as Stian explained before. So we could also embed external tools, gamification tools, etc. And also one important point is that Canvas Network has a broad API that allows us to retrieve all the information that we want to analyze from the students regarding the engagement, collaboration, interaction, etc. So we used the Canvas importation feature. Then we imported the course from Moodle to Canvas, but some activities, some features were not properly implemented, so we had to do it manually. For example, some activities like glossaries, collaborative glossaries, or peer reviews. Okay, regarding the scale, as I told before, the teachers didn't have previous experience with MOOCs, so they didn't realize that some tools that are usually used in LMS courses are non-scalable. For example, Google Docs. Probably most of you know that there is a maximum limit, a limit of students that can work at the same time in Google Docs. It's 50 students at the same time. So imagine what happens if we put a Google Doc, a collaborative Google Doc for creating a glossary in a MOOC, and more than 50 students at the same time want to work. They cannot. And if they see that they cannot access or interact with the content, maybe it is a reason to drop out the course at that moment. So we look for other options. We check like Canvas forums, Canvas submission activities, etc. And finally, we decide to implement it with Google Forms, that is a scalable tool, and show the results through Google Spreadsheet, the web exportation feature that allows unlimited user visualization. Also, the teachers, we saw that they had a similar problem with the assessment because they didn't realize that some activities is very difficult in MOOC context to assess manually. So we changed all the manual assessment to peer reviews, and also we make that it's a student that submit an assignment had to review 2 works in order to avoid that those students that submit an assignment but then don't review, and there are students that do not receive comments from their peers. Okay, and regarding the collaboration in the active learning, the first thing we did, the core redesign team, was the selection of activities and the degree of collaboration. The degree of collaboration, we decided to do it with groups, small groups of 6 students. And the selection of activities was the term extraction from text due to pedagogical reasons. And it's easy to implement and easy to encourage a student to do it. Since we wanted that the groups were success, we use a criteria for grouping them. We use the criteria of grouping students that had the similar level of activity during the last days. So those that visited many pages, those that contribute to forums during the last days were grouped together in the same group, and those who didn't even enter in the course were grouped together. So then we put all those students that didn't enter in the course together, and the students that participate daily and more together in other groups. So to do that, we had to develop a tool because Canvas Network doesn't provide us that functionality. And also we configure other options like fixed dates for activities, and we close the enrollment dates to avoid latecomers in order to make that group and collaboration successful. Also, regarding the gamification, it's similar to collaboration. The first action we did, it was selecting the students' actions and game elements to use. We decided to go for badges and a leaderboard because it's an easy, and we wanted to check just as an exploratory study how it can be implemented. And also the students' actions involving individual and collaborative actions. We wanted to use gamification as promoter of the students collaborate. We did it, we gamified only optional actions to get the final certificate of the course. And all the students, even if they performed the action to get the badge, had to claim the badge after that to gain the badge. That is because we don't want, is what Stian said before, the red pill or the blue pill. We don't want to make students that don't like gamification play gamification. So if you don't want to play, okay, you don't have to play. Finally, some conclusions and discussions. So we had the previous MOOC with features not considered in the original design, and we wanted to include active learning. So what we did was redesign the course. Which lessons learned? Which are the lessons learned? Oh, first of all, we didn't talk about it, but the original course had some references in the videos, like date references, like content references, and that's a big problem, because if you want to redesign the course and put one video that was here, and then one here, and this refers to this video, etc. So that's important features for Nouvelle MOOC instructors. Also, that the tools frequently used in LMS-based courses, not all of them are scalable, so you have to take it into account when you want to redesign a course to be a MOOC. And the same with the assessment. Another one important conclusion is that simple collaborative and gamification mechanisms can be implemented in a MOOC platform, as most of the previous MOOC with forums, peer reviews, etc. But more complex approaches like criteria-based group formation or other gamified action need additional tools, and that's why we had to develop a tool to make the criteria-based grouping based on the previous activity of the students. Well, this is a screenshot of the final course. I think it's not important. As a future work, we would like to analyze if the design reasons that we took, that we implement, that we configure in the collaborative activities, the closing the enrollment days, the restriction date content, work it really. Because we have to analyze the results, we have to see we made also a post questionnaire to the students, and we want to ask them which their opinion about them. And also we want to, and we are working on implementing more complex collaborative and gamified activities like CSCL scripts and intra-groups competitions collaborations as gamification features. So that's all. Today, my colleague Luisa has a poster in the poster session about the collaborative activities that we implement in the MOOC, and I have also a poster tomorrow about the gamification collaborative gamification. So if you are further interested, you can also come today or tomorrow to to ask us. And if you have any question, I'm open to any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. We have plenty of time for questions. So you can raise your hand.
Hello, I'm an instructional designer from King's College London,
Uh-huh.
and I
You can speak louder. No, it's for the streaming, so you use it. But
so
stand
okay.
up.
I wanted to ask you about the tool you developed
Yeah.
to create groups.
Okay. What do you want to know? Is that, or do you want the information? Uh-huh. I knew that someone. Sorry. He is your name. Sorry. Alex, like me, I think. Alex from King's College from London. Okay. And he's asking if how the tool that we developed for creating the criteria-based group works. No. So I knew that somebody were going to ask me about that. So I add that the next slide. Thank you for making the question. We are not friends. So the tool retrieves from the MOOC platform all the information of the students regarding the page views, the submitted task, and the posted messages in forums. So what we did, what the tool does, is like, okay, let me, because Luisa is the expert. Luisa, I don't know if you want to contribute. But what the tool does is those students that have similar activity during the last days, during the last 21 days, are grouped together. Okay. Imagine that you have these students that high activity, medium activity, low activity, and no activity. Okay. So okay, we did it not for the whole course, but we did also a control subset and experimental subset. So in the experimental subset is the point of the tool. So we group all the students with high activity all together in group. It's not one group; it's 6-person groups. And all that have medium activity in different groups. All that have low activity in different groups. And those who have no previous activity are grouped all together. They are not going to work. They are not going to produce any artifact, but they are grouped together. Avoiding that, they can create a bad feeling in other groups where other people collaborate or participate. More or less. If you want further information, it is in that reference. And even if you want further information, you can go to the session poster with my colleague, and she will explain it probably better than me.
So there's lots of theories about group dynamics, saying that there's groups where you have a leader, for example, and then there's a kind of a natural dynamic that puts into place, and you have people who follow. So my question is, if you put people together who are very active, are you not going to find yourself with a group of leaders, and then on the other hand, a group of people who are followers, and maybe disrupt the group dynamics?
So your question is, let me, if I understood well, if we group all the high activity people together, then the other groups are not going to be efficient. Well, could be, but this is an experiment, so we want to test that also. Yeah, it's not. It's not if those students that they get the high scores. It's about the more active, who check more pages, who interact more in the forums, etc. Yeah, it's true what you say. It's true. That could be a shortcoming of grouping students like that. But also imagine that you are in a group and you used to check the MOOC from time to time, but you want to finish it. And then you have in your group someone that is every day writing in the forum of your group, every day encouraging you to, come on, perform. Probably that doesn't like it, you don't like it. So it could be also, it's like a way of trade-off. We have to look for the best way to group them. Yeah, but I agree with your comment.
Is there any other question there, please?
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm from IE Business School here in Madrid. I just was curious for what you've tried, or if anyone else in the room has tried this. When we're working with our MOOCs and SPOCs and things like this, one of the biggest issues is group work and effectively doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried kind of, when you're setting up these groups, having a rotating system, like maybe almost assigning some, like if you have 6 people per group, for example, and you have 1 week, one's a leader, one's like a secretary role, one's things like this. Has anyone ever tried this? Or
No, but that's a good point also with the gamification, like mixing gamification and collaboration. We didn't try, but yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, we haven't tried that, but it was definitely like a brainstorming idea that we were thinking, and I would just be interested if anyone has ever tried that in their courses also to find me at some point and have a talk with me about it.
Yeah, I'm also, because I'm the who implemented the gamification part in this redesign course, so I'm quite interested in that. Okay, we can meet later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. I have a question.
Yes?
You said you have 21 days for selecting the people that was active or
Mm-hmm.
active. Why is this 21 days criteria selected?
Luisa?
Because the activity was in the 4th week.
Uh-huh.
When we use all the data
Okay, so,
available in the platform.
So it's depending on the design. Okay.
yeah, so the answer was that the first group activity of the course was implemented in the 4th week of the course. So the 4th week of the course means that 21 days before, from the start date of the course. So that's why 21 days.
We don't want to put
Yes.
the collaborative active at the beginning because
Uh-huh.
we have no data.
We didn't want to put the first collaborative activity, group activity, at the beginning of the course because maybe some students see that, oh, the whole course is going to be about groups and everything, so I don't like, so we put it at the end of the course just to avoid that kind of disengagement. Any other? No? Thank you.
So now we have another girl, Adeline Bossu. She's going to be presenting towards e-presence at distance as a way to reach and share equality. The case of the ECO-S MOOCs. You will say what is an MOOCs, right?
Yes. Right. Hello, so my name is Adeline Bossu. I'm working with Divina from X, and we were working during 3 years on one European project which called ECO project, and I'm actually doing my PhD with Divina from X. Sorry for my English, I will try to do my best. Do not hesitate if you do not understand me. So I want to present how we have developed e-presence in our MOOC, and how we are thinking that this e-presence is encouraging also equality in our SMOOC. So I will after present what is an SMOOC for us. We have based our research on a model for e-presence which is proposed by Garrison and Anderson. And it is based on cognitive presence, social presence, and design presence. So we are going to see how MOOCs, ECO-MOOCs are proposing elements to go on this e-presence. So European project is one project was with 22 partners. We have a lot of different institutions, like private institutions, but also universities, so public institutions. That's the originality of the project. We have many phases. On the main phases of this project was first we developed the pedagogical model, which is called SMOOC. And after that, we have tried to choose some platform we can reach this pedagogical model, fit with this pedagogical model criteria. And after we have tried to develop 17 SMOOC pilots from ECHO partners. And after that, we proposed to participants to create their own SMOOCs. So participants can become an e-teachers as the pedagogical team were at the beginning. So what's the SMOOC pedagogical approach? So we based our SMOOC on with the CMOOC approach, focusing on community and connection. We want that participants create their own learning pathways and they can bring contents in the MOOCs. So we have deployed a lot of spaces and tools to allow these exchanges. We have focused on social learning experience also. We used connectivism and situated learning and socio-constructivism. Also, we have made a lot of efforts on inclusion for accessibility, for example, and we have tried to develop a learn-centered pedagogy. All our contents are also in a CC policy, and we have tried to develop diversity of themes of our SMOOCs. So the first phase, as I told you, it was to deploy the 17 SMOOC pilots, and during the project, 9 additional SMOOCs was created by the original pedagogical team of the ECHO partners. So each of these MOOC run during 3 iterations, and they are almost 8 weeks duration. So we have chosen 5 platforms to propose these SMOOCs. One of these platform is proposing 6 languages. That's called OpenMOOC. And during all this process, we have analyzed and improved our results to always be agile and propose another iteration. So the second phase was to propose to external partners and to e-teacher to all participants to create their own SMOOC. And teams propose pedagogical assistance, technical assistance, and management assistance. So at the end, because the project just finished now, we have 81 SMOOCs, 135 iterations, and almost 60,000 of participants. And all contents are available. So this is for ECHO projects. I hope you understand. So we want to show you how in ECHO we have ensured this e-presence. So first, cognitive presence is facilitated in the different postures that the learner can opt. For example, in this MOOC, the learner can choose the learning pathway he wants. We also assume social presence with the use of videos, but also live events and group functionality as and also peer review, as we just show in the presentation before. Also in ECHO, we inside the OpenMOOC platform, you can create your social networks. So it was important also for us to develop these functionalities. And people can follow and like contribution of the other participants. Design Present was also developed by ECHO because we propose 2 spaces. The first one is a MOOC learning lab where participants can come and learn how to create their SMOOC, but more technically, with more technical aspects. And the second one is a MOOC step-by-step where people can learn how to create their own SMOOC and they can create their community there in these 2 spaces. So it was very interesting because this Presence was developed first by the creator of the platforms, and after by the original pedagogical team, and after that by e-teachers themselves. So we have several degrees of reflexivity of this deployment of e-presence. So this increased reflexivity, proximity, awareness, or representation of authority on knowledge, attention to other and diversity. Also, we want to show that e-presence can also allow the quality process, because during this ECHO project, we have to deploy tools to be sure that the quality of MOOC was reached. So we have tried to develop different tools to ensure sustainability, scalability, and also we have to be sure that the result, we have to evaluate result to be sure that the SMOOC are okay. So first we have deployed the checklist. These checklists help e-teachers to be sure that all the pedagogical model design is okay, and the pedagogical team can use it to test their own SMOOC. But after, they can use it to also assess the MOOCs of the e-teacher, of the participant of e-teacher. So we have different levels of assessment. We have also tried to deploy the SMOOC Eco Guide with the good practices of the pedagogical team. And to ensure scalability, we have developed this SMOOC Learning Lab that I just showed you before to train e-teachers and create community with tutorials and collaborative spaces. This Learning Lab is the continuing of this step-by-step SMOOC, where people can meet together to create their own MOOC, and they can create their own community to learn how to create a SMOOC. Also, to ensure scalability, we have to deploy some tools for participants. If you have some question how to become an e-teacher, we have deployed FAQ on the website, for example. But we have also developed a FAQ for the pedagogical team who wants to follow the new team who wants to create their own SMOOCs. And so we should develop an ECHO back office application, what was not planned at the beginning, to follow the new request to create a new MOOC and to give the space, for example, for the participant who wants to create their own MOOC. We should verify the quality of the SMOOC before opening it. So we have to automate these demands and after check the quality. Also in ECHO, we have developed some learning analytics tools to analyze the learning pathway of the participants. And we have tried also to create a guide to give this tool to the other pedagogical team, to the participants' teams. And of course, we also give to the participants a satisfaction questionnaire at the end of each SMOOC, and we have analyzed these results at the end of each iteration of SMOOCs. And we also propose to the e-participant to propose this satisfaction questionnaire at the end of their SMOOCs. So if we look at the different tools and spaces that I have just showed before, we can see that they all answer the cognitive and social and design presence. So this is really important for us just to remark that social presence is less emphasized in these tools because social was already proposed by the networks, social networks inside the platforms, but also outside the platforms. So first conclusion is that this ECHO project is very interesting for the multiplier effect he proposed. Because as I told you, first it was the pedagogical team who create their own SMOOC, and it was the first one. And after they proposed it to the participants to create their own SMOOC also, with some tools and spaces to share and to guide the pupils. So this is a snowball strategy, which is interesting for us, and for which we were also obliged to propose some tools and to be present in the different spaces to help these participants. So such a process is a part of the ECHO model, whose reflexivity contributes to the specificity and originality of European MOOCs in the global MOOCosphere. In the second point, we also assume that equality is optimized by this e-presence, because as I show you, all these tools and spaces was necessary to develop equality, to be sure that participants propose some SMOOC with equality, with quality, and this helps also, so e-presence help quality. As a result, equality is being redesigned by MOOCs. There is a quality shift. Equality itself changes when the three types of presence are brought together to answer purpose, reflexivity, and sustainability. This points to how the ECHO model expands the institutional value of e-presence. And so our conclusion is that e-presence need to be related to equality as a multi-phase process of co-production between the learner and the learning environment. E-presence needs to be taken more in account in the design of MOOCs and also in their quality and assurance, as it is an empowering process that enables the learner. And e-presence needs to be ensured all through the learning service to ascertain that quality is not just an outcome of the learning platform. And e-presence should be used to diminish distance and to bring awareness to pedagogical and technical design and functionalities. So this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. We have time for one question.
Rainer Sorbonne, Heidelberg University. Thanks for an exciting presentation. I wonder, at the first slide you showed the project, and it seemed to be a EU-funded project.
Yes.
And we just heard that the EU has nothing to do in education, so I'm very curious which funding pot you accessed.
Sorry, I do not understand the question.
Is this Horizon 2020, or did you project it as a research project, or how did you do this?
How do we do the project?
Yeah, is it funded by the EU, this project?
Yes, it's UNED who was the coordinator of the project.
And
it's a CIP project.
CIP
project. And so we have some financement from European Commission, but also institution gives some personal, I don't know the name, and finance to, you know.
Co-funding.
Yes, crowdfunding, yes, exactly. And so 22 partners were involved in this project from, I do not remember, 7 countries, I think. And yes, and the originalities was that some private company are here, but also university and private schools. So it was a big diversity, and we have to work together. It's why I said that at the beginning, pedagogical team was not. We have to create the way of how working, of how ensure this quality, of how.
Was there a call for proposals, or did you spontaneously submit?
Sorry, I do not understand.
Was there un appel d'offres? Est-ce qu'il y avait un appel
Yeah,
d'offres?
I was not at the beginning of the project. I do not remember. Maybe
Les vétérans.
nobody can help me.
Pas de vétérans.
I don't know. I think it was a proposal from UNED, but I see that. Okay, sorry.
No worries, you can continue.
Okay, I will try to check it.
Well, thank you very much for this information. We need funding, right? So maybe you can talk later during the lunch. How did you get this nice funding? Because all need funding. We all need funding. So thank you very much, Adeline. Now is the last talk. You have 10 minutes because it's a short presentation.
Yeah.
It's about gamification again, and it's called Does Gamification in
Does this
MOOCs
work?
Discussion Forums Work? Let's see if Mohammad Khalil give us the fantastic answer for this difficult question. Thank you.
Is it working? Yeah. Is it working? Yeah, okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, does gamification in MOOC discussion forums work? This actually is the title, as well as maybe our motivation to answer this in our research. So, my name is Mohammad Khalil, and I'm a Ph.D. candidate at the Graz University of Technology. But now I'm graduated, so now I'm a doctor. Okay, but when I did this, it was through my PhD work. So in fact, actually, MOOC discussion forum is not only about just to talk between the students. It's also about where students can also express their problems and also to talk with the teacher. So in fact, this is actually some snapshots of some of the MOOC discussion forums. So of course, in MOOCs, in our work, we have done this research in iMOOCs, and iMOOCs is a platform provided by the Graz University of Technology in Austria. So actually, the platform here has several MOOCs that is provided in German for German-speaking countries. So in fact, as I told you, is not only the discussion forums is not only just for talking or just for discussion, but in fact also in discussion forums we can find some patterns done by the students. For example, here we can find a dropout. For example, here in the first weeks, here we have on the y-axis the number of reads that the students contributed. So we can find here in one of our provided MOOCs that around 1,600 reads, and in the second week we can have around 1,000, and in the third we can have around 800, and then around 400. So we can actually find a dropout pattern here, and after actually the fourth week we can also find some also dropout, and it's actually here very critical after the fourth week. Another thing here is about learning in discussion forums. We can also find when the students are reading and when the students are writing and when actually discussions can happen. And in this plot, we can actually here find that students are actually reading and writing nearly every time. It's actually even from the 8 a.m. till around 12. Or around 1 a.m. in the second day, and even here actually we can also find that students are actually also reading and writing also at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. But the peak is actually can be found around 6 to 10 p.m. So in fact, actually this actually what we can actually find is that forums are important in MOOCs. So our motivation in this work was to leverage student desire for socialization, and the second goal was to increase the participation rate and engagement of the students. Because if we can actually define and actually improve students' engagement, we can also reduce the dropout of the students. So the old forum design that we have is very basic. We have just a tree view. A student can click here and there, and he can read or write, or she, and she can reply. So that's it. It is actually very basic. So what we did is adding some gamification elements. And actually the question, can this really improve the engagement of the forums? So what actually we did is that from the basic design of the old one that we have, we actually added badges. For instance, student can, when he create an account, receive a badge. When he actually did 5 replies or answers, he can have another badge. Another thing is adding a progress bar. For instance, you have 40%, you can add another reply or another question, or you can make a comment, and you can have, you can actually progress till the second level. Another thing is actually also students cannot upload their pictures, but after making several posts or comments. So, and students can, after that, of course, look at their analytics, where they can find how many posts they did, what is their levels, how can they proceed to the next level. So, in fact, this is actually an experience for us, and in order just to see, so it's not really that deep research, but it's actually an experience one. So, a simple learning analytics we found here is that we tested that on one MOOC, and we found that students, there were a lot of students, for example, changing their names, and actually also making replies, likes, and all of that was mined through their actions on the new design. So we made a comparison between the old and the new design. And in fact, you can actually maybe hear that somehow the research is not always very positive. So maybe you will have some negative results, like us. So after we add gamification, the results was maybe worse. So yes, yeah, this actually just a result for us. So for example, here for the written forms, it was actually in the 2014, the old one was higher. And through the weeks, we can find in the second or third week, they were higher. And also the same for the reads. So in the first 3 weeks, we can find that the old one was higher. The new one is actually a little bit lower. So comparing the data, what we can here find. Here we have the old one and the new one. The old one, there were around 520 students. The new one around 600. The certification is 19%, and the second one is 12%. So dropout actually increased. But yeah, so, and what we also realized that the students who never used the forums in the new one was a little bit higher, from 33% to 40%. So, yeah. So the conclusions for us is actually there are some conclusions that we can talk about this. Is actually there is no that big difference. So adding just some extrinsic motives is not really enough to improve engagement of students. Another explanation is that in the old one, the students were rewarded for, like, for example, 4 ECTS points. But the new one, they were rewarded 3 ECTS points. Maybe that can make actually a 1 point. Another thing is, we can say that there's something good in our research, is that there were an enhanced usability, and we added some fun to the discussion forums. And we actually did that through some questionnaire that we asked the students about. And they actually confirmed that there is some added usability and fun. And in fact, after a little bit of investigation, we found that the old forums, maybe because of the MOOC advertisement at that year was more, and it is the first version of the MOOC. So maybe the second and third, fourth versions of the MOOC becomes actually lower and lower. So what I can conclude is that external motivations maybe is not enough. So actually, we should actually also look at other motivations to improve student engagement in discussion forums. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is there any question? We have time for questions there.
Yeah.
Thanks for your talk. This is Anisha Bakaria from UQX here. I'm just interested in whether you've actually done any content analysis on the forum postings between the two different versions. There is some research to show that in the first run of the MOOC, there can be a lot more discussion, but it's not really on topic. But in later runs, the participants are more focused and more interested in the course, and they actually talk a lot more about the topic itself.
That's actually correct, and we found that in the first run of the MOOC, we realized that there are some talks just talking about technical issues or just about the general design, nothing about really it can be said that there is, of course, some discussions about the topic, but in the second version, we found that the questions about the technical issues or the design didn't exist anymore. So maybe also this can be explained, or maybe can also be another reason for that. So the content analysis for that, we can say that that's really true. It's about the first versions. The discussions cannot always be about the MOOC itself. Maybe it can be about technical issues or some problems,
Just following on from that, also in regard to social network analysis, like have you looked at whether adding the gamification actually enhanced the social networks that formed in terms of reply structures and triads?
We actually didn't do social network analysis, but you can say that if the teacher is involved in the discussions by asking the questions and like sparking the students or igniting the inner questions or the inner feelings for the students to ask questions, this can really improve the engagement for the students in forums. But actually, we did not do a social network analysis in order to answer that clearly.
Okay, I just think adding those two levels will really
can be improved.
give you a different way to look at your results.
Of course, this can actually be a benefit to add or to make that in order to answer such thing or to add the potential in order to answer such question. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more last question there at the end.
Hi, I'm Erkan from University of Valladolid. So I'm just curious if at the beginning of the semester, if instructor encourage students to like earn badges, like instructor tell them something like, you should also focus on earning badges. They are good. They are gonna contribute to your learning or motivation. And second is, if how students learn about if they gain a badge, like there is a notification system in the platform, or they receive email, or
answering your second question is that they can actually here look at their status, where they can find the badges that they earned or not. And regarding the first question, if I correctly understand it, is that no, the teacher didn't talk about that. So we tried to see how the students are searching for that, or can make a badge, for instance, without any other conflict or without any other.
So it was in the syllabus or not?
Sorry.
The information about badges.
It was in the home page of the MOOC.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed the session. Just a quick reminder, there will be another experience track session at 3 in this same room. So if you want to continue this nice discussion, it will be about new pedagogies in MOOC environments. Lunch is downstairs, and it starts in 2 minutes, I think.